Well, welcome. It's my pleasure in this series I'm calling Reflections from Pharmacy Leaders Advancing the Profession to have with us here today Marialice Bennett, who is a professor emeritus at The Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio. She was also the residency director for ambulatory and community care residency programs there at OSU. She's the co-founder and a pharmacy director of the University Health Connection, which is an innovative IPE healthcare clinic at Ohio State. And in the past, she's received the Daniel Smith Practice Excellence Award from APHA. She was involved with the Project Impact that as students should be familiar with. And she's a past president of APHA. So welcome to Marialice Bennett.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So the first question that I have is, we'd like to learn more about your journey to your career and ultimately recognition and service as a leader in our profession. And in response to that question, you may want to reflect on key events or persons that influence you in this journey. And this is generally 15 to 20 minutes total, the whole thing.
So when I have to think about my journey, I always have to start with the fact that I was born in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm a first generation college graduate. And if I had lived probably anywhere else, my life might have turned out very differently, because I was able to live at home and go to Ohio State and have this incredible university right in my backyard. So I didn't enter college with any aspirations of going into any kind of a medical field. I went to college in the mid-1960s, and so the opportunities for women were not near as wide as they are today. But I was so fortunate when I went to orientation that some counselor, who I don't know her name, and she would not know my name, spent 20 minutes with me and actually put me in chemistry, physics, and calculus, which put me into the environment where I met students who were already in pre-pharmacy and learned a lot more about pharmacy, and made the decision to switch that to my major. So just sitting in the right place and having those amazing, wonderful people walk into your life got me on the right path. And when I think about, I certainly feel like I had a strong education at Ohio State, but I did my internship for 3 years at the Ohio State University Medical Center. And that was in the era of Cliff Lachelet, who was definitely a leader in creating change in hospital pharmacy. And I had the opportunity to work with people like Harold Godwin and Roger Anderson and Sarah White and Marva Champel, who really just instilled their passion for what pharmacists could really do and the impact that they could make. And I think that magical moment of being in that environment when unit dose was starting, when IV admixtures were starting, when liaisons to the floor, and ultimately pharmacists going onto the floor, and having the opportunity to be one of the first pharmacists to actually open up services on the floors. I was the first pharmacist around on renal at Ohio State. It was just a very magical time, and the spirit and the passion and the sense of purpose for pharmacy just was so instilled in me there that it just lit the flame really for the rest of my career. And so as I began to have a family and step back for a while to work part-time, I still had opportunities to continue to work at the university in the first division of pharmacy practice at Ohio State and teach practice, and ultimately moved into the ambulatory and community care world, because that was a piece that was missing for me in the hospital, was that long-term relationship with the patient. And so I would say that a lot of it was timing, a lot of it was being around a lot of high energy and passion, and being highly influenced by people who really saw where the future of pharmacy was going to be. And so I think having the opportunity then to move on and teach students, and I was on clinical track at Ohio State, so I had my research and teaching was in the practice arena for the most part. So I had the opportunity to share those moments with future practitioners, and so you felt like you were passing on what those great mentors gave to me in those early years of my career.
Very good. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. So the next question has to do with, what do you think will be your legacy in 20 years? And I rephrase this question to say, of all the contributions you have made to help advance the profession, what are you most proud of?
So I would say, when I think about legacy, you think about your legacy as something that's going to continue to live on. And so, I mean, I was so blessed to be in academia and spend so much time with students, teaching them about practice and getting them passionate about practice. And then we had 106 residents go through the program while I was affiliated with it at Ohio State. And so I think in terms of what those residents and what those students went out and have done and will do, there are things that I can't even imagine, let alone ever think about I could do, but yet I was able to walk just a mile on their journey and have some influence, some impact on the direction that they chose, or some inspiration to keep them going when things got tough. So I think of the students and the residents, and then I'll say my own children. I think of that as a legacy as well, as what will live on in this world and continue to make a difference in ways that I couldn't, and again, it's the ways I wouldn't ever even be able to think about. I think also of from the era that I came up through pharmacy, I think a legacy will be opening the doors for women in academia and in clinical practice. And so being in that first wave, just knowing that the road was easier for those, maybe different, but easier in some ways compared to my journey, maybe more difficult in other ways because of being first. But I felt like I have been able to practice in a way that gave opportunities for other women to be able to be in academia and to practice at high levels in the profession.
Very good. And obviously we've seen in our history, as we trace our history, that the number of percent of women in pharmacy has steadily increased, or now it's over 50%. And in pharmacy programs, even that evolution in terms of the percent, and women faculty as well, is tremendous increases over the last few decades. That's wonderful.
And I think the growth of clinical track faculty opened the door for women to do what they love to do, take care of patients and take care of students, and took a little different path and opened the door for research and in creating new services. And so it was, it was a wonderful opportunity, a door open for women. And I feel very proud to being able to be a part of that era that made that happen.
Very good. Thank you very much. So the next question has to deal with advice for students in their professional journey, especially as they develop as leaders. And when we say leaders, the little L, how they will influence people to help advance change, to advance the profession. So what words of advice would you give our students?
So I don't know that I ever woke up one morning and said, gee, I'm going to be a leader in pharmacy. I don't think it happens that way. But I think what you do is somewhere along the line, you catch a passion, you catch a purpose, and you feel it inside of you that drives you to move in ways to influence others, to catch that purpose and to catch that passion. And so I think leadership is that ability to be able to be aware of what your passion and purpose is, and then be able to influence others to be able to follow that passion and purpose with you, because you really can't do it alone. And usually what you bring alongside of you enhances so much what your original thoughts were that it makes a huge impact to do that as a group. So I think being in tune to yourself, knowing what excites you, knowing, following your dreams, and knowing what you stand for, knowing what your own personal mission statement is. And then, I always used to tell residents and students, you just do the right thing. And so I think Frozen 2 did it a better, you just do the next right thing. I love that in Frozen 2, but that's, when you're stuck, you just look around, and it may not be the easiest thing, but you do the next right thing, and that moves you through into making your passion and your purpose a reality. I think one of the things that I tend to see in young people is that if you don't have all the credentials, and if you don't, if you look at a job description and you can only do 2/3 of it, you tend to walk away from some of those opportunities. So I think one real important thing is you've got to be at the table. You got to be in the middle of where things are happening. And I think really in pharmacy, being part of your state, local, and national pharmacy associations helps you stay in the middle of where things are happening. So you have to be at the table, you have to be in the flow of things, and you have to be willing to take some risks and do some things that may not always be in your comfort zone. So I think being very self-aware, so like working on communication skills, working on emotional intelligence, working on self-awareness, really coming in tune to what your purpose and passion is, and then just continuing to do the next right thing to pursue that. I would also say that in any stage of your life, I think you need a mentor, maybe personally and professionally. And it may be a different person depending on where you are in your life, but I think those mentors are so important, and I know have been extremely significant in my life, and I still feel like I have mentors in pharmacy and in my personal life that make such a huge difference in the paths that I choose. And I think of a mentor being different from a leader, in that a mentor influences you to choose and follow your passion and your purpose, whereas a leader has a passion and purpose that they're influencing you to try to follow. So you want to pick a mentor that wants to nurture you in what's important to you, not so much as what's important to them. And I feel like that's something I really recognize in the mentors that I've had. They were really in tune to what my skill set was, what I had passion and purpose about, and helped push me in that direction, not so much in the direction of maybe what they would have chosen for themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think the last thing I would just say, have fun, enjoy it, love it. I think as I look back, the things that I remember the most are this great, amazing family that I have been able to connect to across the country, just because I was in pharmacy and had a passion and a purpose to get involved and become a leader. And pharmacists are just wonderful people. And so I look forward now at this stage of my life to going to APHA meetings just to see my family of pharmacists that are out there. So it's a huge network, and it's a powerful network, and it's marvelous people. And so really treasuring most, I think, as I look back, is all those great friendships and relationships that I've had over the years.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. And the last question has to do, this is a history course that these interviews are embedded in. And one of the things, we'll be studying the decades of the 2020s. And one of the events that will be mentioned will be the COVID-19 pandemic. And that will be marked, I believe, as a significant event that will shape our profession. In particular, how do you see that as a significant event, and how it will have been an opportunity for our profession as we study how we evolve?
So I feel like COVID-19 has really brought to the surface in many arenas, not so much that we're not providers, but that we are very accessible, and why aren't we providers? I think we've sent the message for quite a while that we want to be providers and provide more care and be part of the solution. But I think the why behind that is more obvious to people today. So we certainly are having opportunities in advocacy to move our agenda forward for pharmacists to be more a part of the solution. But I think as COVID-19 testing, as antibody testing starts surfacing, looking at making sure we get this mass of people vaccinated when the time comes, even looking at collaborative practice agreements that will open up. Perhaps you're going to test positive for COVID-19, and perhaps the pharmacists are going to be able to start some kind of therapy or some type of monitoring. I think those opportunities are certainly opening up, and I think that will carry over into influenza testing and CPAs, over to strep testing and CPAs. And then there's this void out there of people who have chronic disease states that have just been, in a sense, lost to follow-up for a period of time. And the pharmacist is really their point of contact right now as well. So I think we have opportunities to show what we can do in helping patients with chronic disease states stay well in an epidemic, a pandemic like COVID-19. But I think that the recognition of our role on the team is, again, putting more of a why behind, yes, why pharmacists need to be given more of the opportunity to have access to the patient to help them use their medications more appropriately.
Excellent.
So I think it's a great time. And I would also say that I feel like our national and state organizations are working so hard to get that message to where it needs to be right now to help us move forward, to be a part of the solution of this pandemic.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your taking the time to be with us here. Thank you very much, Marialice Bennett.
Thank you for the opportunity.